Hello and welcome to God in Film, the podcast where a Christian and an atheist dive into the best that cinema has to offer and see if we can find any parallels with the gospel or any other Bible stories. I'm media coordinator and oncoming storm, Giles Gough.
And I am religious studies teacher and mad woman in a box, Natalie Minaker.
And today, for this very special episode, we're going to be looking at Doctor Who, the long-running sci-fi show that is soon to be celebrating its 60th anniversary. Now, I feel like Doctor Who has a real special significance in our friendship.
It really does. I feel like I'm responsible for getting you into Doctor Who.
100%. Basically, right, so I watched Rose because it was such a big deal when it came out, and I saw the incredibly CGI, the shonky CGI.
Yeah,
I
it's
saw,
a bit wonky.
It's not great, you know. I saw Noel Clarke get attacked by a bin and become all plastic, and frankly, now that we know what we know about Noel Clarke, that was definitely an improvement. But it didn't seem like it was absolutely essential viewing. And then I came back from America, and Claire was like, Nat was like, no, you really have to watch this, you know. So while some people talk about Doctor Who being part of their childhood, for me, it was very much about that kind of early stage in your sort of adult life, you know, like the fact that sort of Rose is by any regular metric an adult, and she still doesn't really know what she's going to do with herself. That was very much how I felt.
Well, we were both still at uni, so that was like our default setting. Technically an adult, not knowing what we're doing.
Depressingly, we weren't. I was graduated for a year by that point. You were just graduating.
What year is it? 2005.
2005.
Yeah, so it's the year I graduated.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
We're
yeah,
old.
I remember us going for long walks and you telling me, no, it's brilliant because it's this and it's that, and it's sort of the sort of Doctor and Rose kind of relationship sort of got transposed onto our friendship
because you had a car.
I had a car, which is as close to a TARDIS as you need in early noughties North
and
Wales.
I was the working class girl with questionable clothes choices. So, and you had a leather jacket. I mean, it was perfect.
Yeah, but I mean, I tell you something though. When Rose got trapped in that alternate dimension, and you went to China for a year. Exactly the same feelings.
Did you just go?
I'm pressing my face up against walls whilst the sort of doomsday theme is on. You know, that was a long year without you. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I do apologise for abandoning you.
Now, some of the more sharper-eared listeners will notice we're covering Doctor Who, which, you know, for the hardcore fans, you'll obviously know we already did this several years ago, and to you, I say, A, well done for noticing, B, shut up, and C, it is a extremely long-running show. It's been going for 60 of your Earth years. There is so much in it that I feel like we can probably get away with having more than one show on it, you know? So let's get our sonic screwdrivers at the ready. You got yours?
Yeah, I got mine.
Yeah, fair. Well, actually, technically, I'm pretty sure you've got mine over there. You know?
Yeah, I may have accidentally stole it from your house when I dressed up as River Song at your Halloween party.
I tell you what, though, I have a real thing for River Song because Alex Kingston does nothing for me. River Song, hello. Can I come to your house?
So you had some confusing feelings at that party when your best friend turns up dressed as River
a little bit, yeah. It was like, okay, here's Nat, and she does nothing for. Oh, wait, hang on, the hot window has opened. For our wedding, we did like different invites. There was like a Casablanca themed invite, and there was a Harry Potter themed one and a Jane Eyre themed one, and there was a Doctor Who themed wedding invite. One with like Claire, my wife Claire, dressed up as the Doctor, and me dressed up as River Song. So that's one of the few cosplays we've got in common.
Oh, we've both done River Song. I never realised.
We've both done River Song. Now, without further ado, let's get into Nat Facts.
Nat Facts. Doctor Who is a long-running British science fiction television series that follows the adventures of the Doctor, a Time Lord from the planet Gallifrey who travels through time and space in the TARDIS, his time machine. And just as you said, Giles, the series is celebrating its 60th year this year. 60 years. That's actually older than us. I know, we've been around that long. The first episode of Doctor Who, titled An Unearthly Child, originally aired on November 23rd, 1963. This date holds historical significance because it was the day after the assassination of President John F. Kennedy on November 22nd. The episode was repeated a week later on November 30th, which allowed more viewers to experience the beginning of the iconic series without the disruption caused by the news coverage of the assassination. So I don't know if you were aware, they actually repeated it the following week.
I knew that. I heard something about the show being late because of Kennedy's assassination.
I think it was more that people were like, I don't particularly want to watch a new science fiction programme when, like, something cataclysmic has happened.
Yeah. No, I'm just so we're clear, have you accounted for your movements on the time of Kennedy's assassination?
Dude, you're my alibi.
Just two dudes hanging out on a grassy knoll, no big deal, whatever.
Many episodes from the early years of Doctor Who were erased or lost due to the BBC's policy of reusing tapes. Fortunately, some missing episodes have been recovered through various means, but many are still missing. Currently, 97 of the first 253 episodes in the programme's first 6 years are missing. If I had a time machine, that is what I would use it for. I would go back in time, find the person who made that decision to wipe those tapes and give them a good long stare.
Yeah, but have you seen what they've started doing? Is they've started actually finding the audio for them and animating them.
Yeah, they've been doing that for a while.
Stories aren't completely gone, and also they've been able to sort of turn them into like novelizations and that sort of thing.
And they turn up all over the place. I think only recently this year some more have been unearthed. So you know, it eventually. My belief is they all are out there somewhere, and they will eventually be found. Another fact, the Doctor's ship, the TARDIS, is one of the most recognisable images in British pop culture, taking the shape of a blue police box. In the show, although a TARDIS is normally capable of disguising itself to blend in with its surroundings, the Doctor explains later that the ship's chameleon circuit broke down in England in 1963 and left the TARDIS stuck as the familiar blue box we all know and love. Now, real police boxes were phased out in the 1970s, and over time the image of the blue police box became associated as much with Doctor Who as with the police. In 1996, the BBC applied for a trademark to use the blue police box design in merchandising associated with Doctor Who. In 1998, the Metropolitan Police filed an objection to the trademark claim, maintaining that they own the rights to the police box image. In 2002, the Patent Office ruled in favour of the BBC, arguing that there was no evidence that the Metropolitan Police or any other police force had ever registered the image as a trademark. In addition, the BBC had been selling merchandise based on the image for over 3 decades without complaint by the police. I love that. I love that the BBC owns the trademark to the police box rather than the police.
BBC just basically went straight in and just straight up stole the...
And just went, dibs.
Yeah.
Did you know, here's an interesting fact, I don't know if you know this, do you know where the sound of the TARDIS materialising and dematerialising came from? That kind of grinding noise.
What, you mean a sound like this?
Oh my goodness, who's just arrived?
Oh, hi guys, hi. Sorry, I've been a bit busy travelling all of space and time. There's been some stuff going on, let me tell you. But hopefully now, Charlotte Bronte is the one that wrote Jane Eyre.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, good. Fix that. Although Anne, obviously, still chronically underappreciated as always. I may have had a brief fling with Cleopatra. She is a charismatic woman.
We all had a brief fling with Cleopatra, Claire. We've all got the T-shirt for that one. Literally, it's in my cupboard. It says, "I travelled through all of time and space, had a brief fling with Cleopatra, and all I got was this lousy T-shirt."
Oh, you mean I'm not the only one?
Oh, sweetheart. So just for the listeners who don't know, Claire Gough has entered the chat. And Claire is in this episode because, my gosh, how on earth would I try and keep her out of it, frankly? Broadly speaking, we have a simple rule, and it's that Claire does whatever she wants on this podcast. So, hello, darling, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing good, thank you.
Natalie, you were saying about the TARDIS sound effect.
where the sound effect comes from for the TARDIS materialising and dematerialising?
I do not.
think I do, but just impress me anyway.
It is the sound of a key being rubbed on a piano string. That kind of like grinding metallic sound.
I love that.
That's so awesome. Just they apparently in the workshop, was it the Radiophonics workshop? They were just messing around with noises and they were like, oh, this sounds good. I have one more fact for you, and this is an incredibly self-centered fact. This is a little Nat fact, is that my eldest daughter's name was partly inspired by Doctor Who. So my 8-year-old Verity, who you guys have been you've experienced
my goddaughter Verity.
I should make yourself godparent.
Yeah, I am self-appointed godfather. Does she have a? Did you actually give her a godfather?
Well, no, because we're atheists.
Well, exactly. So that's why she needs a godfather.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Should she decide to be a Christian, I am handing her over to you. So
yeah, awesome.
You can
Works
deal with
for me.
that. So yeah, my daughter, 8-year-old daughter Verity, was named after the late Verity Lambert, the first producer of Doctor Who was the creation of the show back in the 60s. Verity Lambert, not only integral to establishing Doctor Who as a national institution, she was also a badass trailblazer for women in the entertainment industry. And I think if you're going to name your kid after a person, then she's a pretty good role model. So
that's a pretty good choice.
Yeah. And by coincidence, her middle name is Rose, but that's nothing to do with Doctor Who. That's just a coincidence.
See, I feel like you missed a trick here. You have another daughter, and you could have called her Sydney after the other Doctor Who creator.
No, I wouldn't. She's Edith. I'm sure there's an Edith somewhere in Doctor Who history. So
awesome.
Sydney, we've not considered that one.
Yeah, I should also point out that at the time of recording, Claire is 7 months pregnant. And if you have any ideas for the names of the Goffspring number 2, just drop them into the chat.
We are.
Russell.
Yeah, Russell.
Russell T. Gough.
Well, the T short for Tiberius anyway, so it's all good.
And that's my facts.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Nat. Now it's time for Finding the Faith in the Film.
We didn't rehearse that. That was perfect.
And it really shows. So, as some of you know, I write for Premier Christianity, and Claire works for Christian Publishers. Gosh, it makes us sound like we're really kind of dyed-in-the-wool Christians, doesn't it? It's terrifying. And she, from time to time, sends me articles. She usually sends me my own articles, if I'm honest. But there was this one article she sent me talking about the faith parallels in Doctor Who. And, it made me so flipping mad, because I thought, I could have flipping written that. Why didn't I pitch that?
I thought you'd be like, oh yeah, that's really interesting. It was like, oh, why didn't I?
There's another one. And then I read it, and it was better than anything I would have come up with. And that doesn't sit well with me, as you know. So anybody who I see as competition, I try and recruit them and get them on side. And that's basically what I've tried to do here. We've got a gentleman with us today who is absolutely a phenomenal writer, a podcaster, and a Christian. Frankly, writer, podcaster, Christian, and geek. I was a little uncomfortable. This guy was sort of treading on my toes and coming onto my turf, but apparently there is allowed to be more than one of us. So there we go. I'm going to let him introduce himself.
It's not like Highlander. There can be more than one Christian Doctor Who nerd geek.
Like Highlander. Actually, it's a bit like Highlander with Gileses. Have you met any other Gileses? No.
I can't think of any off the top.
Exactly, because I beheaded them and absorbed their power, you know?
Though, funnily enough, I've got a friend called Nat who's got a daughter called Verity, who has been on my Doctor Who podcast because she's a massive Doctor Who fan. So
okay, well now I have to fight her to the death. I mean, those are the rules. I don't make the rules.
Youngest has just turned 1, but his due date was the 22nd of November last year, I think. And so I was like, he could end up arriving on the 23rd, in which case we've got to call him something like William Hartnell Woodbridge or something.
You know, in all the excitement, you haven't actually introduced yourself.
Oh yes, I am Caleb Woodbridge. I am the Caleb, and I'm a writer, editor, digital content creator. So I write a Substack, Bigger on the Inside, about the spiritual dimensions of storytelling, particularly in science fiction and fantasy. I have a very occasional podcast on imaginative discipleship, so exploring how imagination plays a part in the Christian life. So you can find those on biggerinside.co.uk and imaginativediscipleship.com. I work for Media Cymru, a research centre at Cardiff University, working with different companies and organisations in the Welsh creative industries to support research and innovation. And I'm also a Doctor Who fan of very long standing. Came to it in the wilderness years, so sort of very much through repeats and novelisations, and 1999 Doctor Who Night, which
with the 3D glasses.
I remember that.
Which was on my birthday. That's kind of when I really crossed the Rubicon of Doctor Who fanishness, and it was sort of after that I was kind of buying Doctor Who magazine and collecting the VHSs and then DVDs and Big Finish audios and stuff. So I was overjoyed when it came back in 2005, particularly since I was heading to Cardiff University to study English and history, but Doctor Who was going to be made on my doorstep, and I did indeed see it filming. In fact, I saw Doctor Who filming at Cardiff University just this week, because they were outside the Biosciences building pretending it was a hospital.
I'm so jealous.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's one of the fun things about walking through Cardiff, because you do feel like you're walking through a film set. You have like Doctor Who, Torchwood, and a bit of Sarah Jane. Okay, Caleb, let's get into it. What can you tell us about faith parallels in Doctor Who?
Doctor Who is really interesting because on the one hand, Doctor Who's got quite a strong rationalistic streak, humanistic streak. It's often been written by atheists, Russell T Davies, Stephen Moffat, Chris Boucher back in the 70s, Douglas Adams, of course. And so you very often had gods turning out to be mad computers or evil aliens and stuff like this, and the Doctor applying his rationality to disprove these superstitious beliefs. But there's also then a bit of a tension, because the Doctor has grown over time into this more and more messianic type figure who's saved the universe several times over, who is deeply moral and empathetic. He sort of forgives his enemies, like the Master in Last of the Time Lords forgives Clara when she sort of betrays him and stuff. He's a very non-violent, violence as a matter of last resort type hero, relying on his wits. There's lots that's very, very deeply Christian in the way that he behaves as a hero. Some of those things aren't exclusively Christian, but they come down to us within our Western culture, very much inflected by Christian values and Christian heritage. So there's this real interesting spiritual paradox of romantic rationalism, a desire for a messiah coupled with a scientific rationalism, someone who's both a lonely god and a madman in a box. And I think, in my experience of fandom, I think probably both outspoken atheists and Christians are sort of overrepresented in terms of often it's people with strongly held beliefs who perhaps feel a little bit on the outside of things, who particularly resonate with the Doctor, who that appeal to people both of no faith and of strong faith is really interesting. And I think Doctor Who is a great opportunity. One of the things I love about science fiction is how it opens up these big questions in a way that can bring people of different beliefs together around the the campfire of storytelling to engage with some of life's big questions. There's Buddhism, there's Christianity, there's all these different things at different points. Russell T Davies in particular often plays with Christian imagery, but in a way that's quite subversive and clever in terms of putting a more humanistic spin on it. So there's so much to talk about there across the show's 60 years of history.
100%. Do you want to tell us about the trailer? Because you made a fantastic point just about the Christopher Eccleston trailer, and like after 50 odd episodes in, I am pretty good at finding faith parallels at pretty much anything, as the Fireman Sam episode will attest to. You managed to find a faith parallel in just that trailer with Christopher Eccleston, which I thought was fantastic, and I was hoping you'd tell us a little bit about.
This was the trailer, the Do You Want to Come With Me trailer back when the show was coming back in 2005. So it was very much trying to get people on board, and it was Christopher Eccleston sort of direct to camera. Do you want to come with me? Because if you do, I have to warn you. It won't be quiet. It won't be calm. It won't be safe. But I'll tell you what it will be. The trip of a lifetime. It sort of mentions various things: aliens from the past, ghosts in the past, aliens from the future, the day Earth died in a ball of flame, eschatology even in there. The thing it reminds me of is that call of Jesus to be a disciple, to come with him, to follow him, the way he called these ordinary people, these ordinary fishermen, and other people out of their ordinary lives to come and be his disciples. The Doctor's not just someone having adventures. He's not just fighting monsters. He's fighting injustice. And there's a wonderful speech by Rose in Parting of the Ways where she thinks she's been sent back to Earth for her protection by the Doctor, and she's trying to find a way back to him in the future as he faces down the Daleks. And she tells her mum and Mickey, it's not just the aliens' adventures, it's the standing up, it's saying no, it's doing what's right. And so I think there's something deeply resonant in that, and I think that moral core to the show and of the character of the Doctor, I think, is something that's really integral to the show's long-lasting appeal. And again, it's got a spiritual dimension to it. It doesn't that can resonate across different beliefs, but certainly it's hard for me to hear that "Do you want to come with me" thing without hearing the echo of Jesus' call to come follow me.
That's interesting.
I think one thing you also picked up on was like just the exciting nature of following Jesus. I haven't been called to do any kind of long-term missions or anything like that, but I've done sort of short-term ones in different places. I've ended up making videos for different charities because following Jesus, and I think the entire sort of course of your life, Claire, changed dramatically just because you followed Jesus, didn't you?
Yeah. So I was working down south near my parents, living there after I left university, and kept hearing about human trafficking, and I was kind of being hit over the head by the subject everywhere I went until I got the hint that God wanted me to do something in that area. So I ended up moving to Manchester and working for a charity, and I never would have moved up here if it wasn't for that. And I was quite an anxious, shy, early 20s girl, so it was a bit terrifying. It's not something I would ever have dreamed of if I hadn't felt like it was something God wanted me to do. And he really turned up for me, honestly. And it's worked out really well because I met Giles.
Yeah, I mean, it's been fun recently seeing these tales of the TARDIS that they've put out with the introductions with the companions. But what you see with these little mini introductions they've got, getting the characters back into introductions to classic stories, is they're all sort of saying about how the Doctor has changed them, and they've sort of said for each of the companions, they've given these clues about their life since then and the things they've gone on to do, making a difference with the environment or with investigative journalism or campaigning on different things. And I think each of them has been changed by the Doctor in a different way. By spending time with the Doctor, they have become better fitted to make a difference in the world. And that should be what the Christian life is about. And that by spending time with Jesus, knowing God as he's revealed himself as a human being, stepped into the pages of history, that we can become his companions, as it were, sort of sent out to do some good in the world, to take part in his mission of redeeming and transforming the world. I mean, obviously the legacy of Christianity in the world is complicated, and there's lots of negative as well as positive aspects to that, but that's what it should be doing. By being with Jesus, we should be changed to be salt and light, and to make a difference, as well as sharing the faith, giving other people the opportunity to hear about Jesus for themselves. But it's also just living out justice, generosity, kindness, goodness, forgiveness, truth, all of these things, all of the things that have become so taken for granted as part of our values, largely in our culture because of the influence of Christianity.
Never be cruel or cowardly.
Yeah.
That's the one I like, you know. I've been thinking a lot about the I say thinking a lot, I mean, it's just come into my head now. I've been thinking a lot about the Timeless Child story arc. Nat, do you want to give us a quick recap of what that is? Can you remember it?
Wasn't it like, essentially, like all the Time Lords are a product of this timeless child who was found, and then it turns out it's the Doctor?
Yeah, so
because of course it is.
As best
you
as
tell
I
I'm
can
not a
remember
huge fan of this storyline.
Don't worry, none of us were a huge fan of this storyline. But as best as I can remember it, the idea is that the Doctor had sort of turned up on Gallifrey as a baby and had been sort of taken in, and has the ability to regenerate and gives that power to the rest of the Gallifreyan people, to the rest of the Time Lords, and it's so the Doctor is the source of regeneration there. I mean, you can hear the parallel as I'm saying it, can't you? That this sort of person comes into the world and gives the gift of new life to everybody, you know, and I'm literally just, that's just occurring to me now, you know?
Yeah. I keep thinking about the end of David Tennant's era. It's when Wilf gets trapped in that sort of radioactive thing.
The end of time.
Thank you, the end of time. Yeah, and the Doctor.
Tap, tap, tap.
Yeah, and he's a lot more reluctant about his sacrifice than maybe Jesus was. But it's like, it's not even a choice for him. It's not even a choice. There's this one person who people would think is completely insignificant, Wilf, who obviously we all absolutely love. But he doesn't even think he's worth saving. He's like, I'm old, I don't matter, don't worry about it. And the Doctor's like, as if I'm going to leave you there. As if I'm going to let you die. That's not even a choice. So he's like, his instinct is to kind of sacrifice and save, but at the same time you have David Tennant's Doctor character going through this kind of pride and getting too close to trying to be a god, and he almost
starts to believe his own hype, basically.
Yeah, like
the
Waters
Waters
of Mars.
the Time Lord Victorious.
Yeah.
I love that when you see like, oh, he could so easily be a villain.
Yeah, it's so, and he almost ends up as like a fallen angel because he starts to he wants to be a god and starts to want to have that ultimate power and just gets a little bit too close. And I think that was a really interesting just investigation into, you know, what if the Doctor starts to want to have all this power, and it kind of comes from a good place of wanting to save everybody and wanting everything to be okay, but he still tries to take on that power for himself, which nobody should have.
I mean, it lasts like
really
for 10 minutes, doesn't it? And then he realises the error of his ways, so you know, we'll let him off, and then he does an awful good job of trying to make up for it. So
you know, we've all been consumed with godlike power for 10 minutes or so, you know.
And I think it's interesting because there are ways in which the Doctor gets set up as this kind of quasi-messianic figure, especially sort of, say, the end of David Tennant's second series with The Master and The Sound of Drums and Last of the Time Lords. And it's sort of the prayers through the Archangel network sort of make the Doctor ascend. He sort of goes, I forgive you to the Master and so on. And it's very much playing with that. But at the same time, unlike Christian belief, it's the power of humanity's belief that is the thing that empowers the Doctor. So it's not actually drawing on a transcendental power bringing it down. It's humanity's power creating something, doing something. So that's a sort of humanistic spin on it. Yes, sometimes he plays at God, or people see him as a god, but actually he is a flawed messiah. He'd make a very bad god, he says in one episode. You were to get Sundays off.
We talked in the last episode about this weird trend of atheist writers creating messiah figures, and I do wonder if there's something in that needs to be sort of picked on. That, and I've seen elements of this in the past where church and Christianity tends to come with like almost like a pre-packaged community ready to go. Do you know what I mean? You've got that ready. And like our church community have been brilliant. Literally, when you're having a kid, there's like a meal rota sorted out for you. You know, when your dad passed away, a friend of ours from church just turned up and played with Riley while we got everything ready. They literally, our sort of friends from church turned up and helped us sort of clean our house and sort of shift like things around. And I think sometimes when you don't have that community built in, and you don't have that singularity of vision, I think some atheists can miss that a bit. And I think sometimes maybe that's what like Russell T Davies, Big Russ as he's known to his friends, is trying to sort of bring in there. I don't know. Nat, what do you think?
I think like the whole community element of Christianity, I think it is something that atheism hasn't really found an equivalent, but I think there are a lot of secular versions of that. Like, you know, when we were at university together, our acting society, like that was our community. And I think there have been attempts within, like particularly within humanism, to try and to build those sorts of communities. And the problem is a little bit with atheists, trying to organise atheists is a bit like herding cats.
Herding cats, yeah. Because which kind of atheist are you? Are you the humanist atheist? Are you the rationalist atheist? Are you the nihilist? If they're the nihilist, you can stay well clear of them.
The thing is, atheist is just a descriptor rather than an ideology. It's just a term that you use. So
atheists haven't had 2,000 years to form denominations yet. So.
Yeah, fair play. We have a bit of a head start.
Yeah. Going back to your point about like atheist-loving messianistic figures.
Messianic.
Thank you. I can never say that word. You think I should be able to say it as being an RS teacher, wouldn't you? But yeah, I think it's a bit of chicken and egg thing to me, because it could be that because even if you're an atheist, if you grow up in the West, you're surrounded by Christianity. And so, like, I class myself as culturally Christian, even if I'm not a Christian. So, like, I'm surrounded by the culture of Christianity. This is a topic we do in GCSE. Like, you know, we do the question, is the UK a Christian country? And you could just break it down to, oh, well, you know, Christianity is now technically a minority religion in that more people follow other religions or no religion compared to Christianity. But when you think about like our year is shaped by Christian festivals still, we have Sunday being, you know, Sunday trading laws. Like there's a million examples of this. So it could be that atheist writers are drawing on messianic figures. Did I say that right? Thank you. Yeah. As a writing trope, because that is what we grow up surrounded by. On the other hand, like, because I am a religious studies teacher, but my background is in psychology. That's what I did at university. I sort of tripped and fell into teaching religious studies. I think
when you say tripped and fell, basically your boss has said you do it and you couldn't think of a good reason to say no.
Yeah, it was 12 years ago. My boss was like, can you do RS just for 1 year? And now I'm 12 years later teaching it up to A-level, and I bloody love it. If I was with my psychology hat on, I'd wonder is there something, because it's not just Christianity that has this messiah figure, the idea of like somebody sacrificing themselves for the good of others, and then with resurrection as well. Like there are other religions that have got those sort of motifs. Part of me wonders, is it just something within human nature? Like, is it feeding some sort of deeper, I don't know, like, is it just something that our brains are built to find those type of stories quite appealing? I'd quite like to read some research on that, so I'm not going to comment any more on it because I don't have the peer-reviewed articles to back me up here. So,
well, I actually got a chance when I was a student to interview Russell T Davies.
Oh, come on!
Okay, he wins. He's the new Giles.
Okay, there can be only one Giles. Look, we've already got Chapman. Chapman's actually a Doctor Who writer, so I'm just saying, like, in the hierarchy of cool people we know, like, we need to have a conversation about where Caleb comes into it, you know?
I mean, he's in the running.
Yeah,
Go on, Caleb.
he's part of the conversation.
I've got a couple of Big Finish short stories I've written, but I don't think as much as Chapman. But yeah, Russell T Davies said that he thinks that religion is a very primal instinct, part of our imagination, and he suspects it's as fundamental as the instinct to look up at the sun. It's a sort of solar thing that we look up and, there's this great big thing in the sky, and we sort of psychologically we extrapolate from that, from there being some higher being, higher source. And so he's sort of respectful of that instinct to look upwards and interested by that, but at the same time he's often terrified by the influence that religion can have, particularly politically, sort of in the world. Yeah, it's very much that fascination with the power of belief, and you sort of see that how writers are drawn to that.
One thing, like you were saying about, with it's not Rusty Davies here, it would be Stephen Moffat. The episode where it's revealed about River Song, who she is, when the baby's stolen.
Good Man Goes to War.
Yes, thank you. A Good Man Goes to War. So you have one of the characters says, talking to the Doctor about the influence that the Doctor has, and on one planet, the word Doctor means soldier, warrior, and I feel like that, that idea of religion, yes, it can be good, but can also lead to other things. If we're making this comparison that the Doctor is like this a religious figure, then I feel like that is an example of where people take that religious message but then militarize it, and I think that is something that can happen as well.
Like Republican Jesus.
Yes.
Like Republican Jesus with the AK-47 and the MAGA hat and all the rest of it. Yeah, like just the name Jesus means different things to different people.
Yeah. All that said, I would want to encourage people who maybe don't have a faith, who like Doctor Who like the character of the Doctor. It's like, I would say, if you like the Doctor, it's worth you investigating. Is this Jesus real? Is there really a Lord of Time who's stepped into human history, who helps us, who is here to save the world and to make us his companions so we can live that way? It might just be a story like other stories, but certainly my conviction is that it is actually true. And so if there's someone like the Doctor, but real, isn't that worth exploring and investigating to see if that's the case or not?
I love the idea of Jesus' disciples and followers being like the Doctor's companions. That's a brilliant comparison. I love that. Makes me feel a lot cooler as a Christian.
Yeah.
Could also say, because the Doctor omnitemporal? He exists in all points in time.
No, that's the bad wolf, isn't it? That's Billy Piper is omnitemporal. Only for 20 minutes,
Yeah. Well, again, Russell T Davies' humanist agenda. It's the ordinary everyday shop girl who becomes the bad wolf, who becomes the one with the power of all time and space. It's sort of an empowering message in that sort of way. But it's also interesting because in Human Nature, Family of Blood, you've got Timothy Latimer describing the Doctor. He says he burns like the fire at the heart of the sun and sees the turn of the universe, and he's wonderful. And it's very strong echoes of Revelation 1, where it sort of describes Jesus in his glory, having gone into heaven, sort of shining like the noonday sun and being the one who holds the keys of death and Hades. And Paul Cornell, of course, he wrote that. His wife is an Anglican vicar. I think he's a Christian with pagan sympathies. He's sort of a little bit eclectic, but sort of very much into the sort of spiritual side of things. And that story of the Doctor becoming human is very much the kind of, and then having to give up the life that he has. It's very much playing off the Christ story, the idea of incarnation in that one as well. In fact, I met someone an American who wasn't familiar with Russell T Davies and his background and stuff, but had watched series 3 of Doctor Who and assumed it must be deliberate Christian allegory because there were so many Christian themes running through it, which I thought was fascinating. It's like close, but not quite, but it's definitely at play in there. Different writers bringing different perspectives on it.
I love that episode.
Yeah, it's such a good story.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of Finding the Faith in the Film section. We have some reviews. I say some, I mean one.
Yay!
This comes in from Alicia Hutchinson. And she says, I started listening to the God in Film podcast because of their Taylor Swift podcast. As a die-hard Swiftie, I thoroughly enjoyed hearing Giles and Kat talk all things Miss Swift. Not only was it entertaining to listen to them discuss the intricacies behind Taylor Swift's music, and I mean, she's a true mastermind, I also gained a new perspective on her music and perhaps even her own personal faith journey too. The podcasts are incredibly easy to listen to. I laughed a lot and found myself debating with them out loud. I even joined in on the top 10 Taylor Swift songs, and yes, I agree that All Too Well 10-minute version is a masterpiece. Accurate. Overall, I highly recommend the podcast for some great facts and quality entertainment. So that was lovely to hear. Thank you, Alicia.
Oh, lovely.
Guys, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Always a pleasure.
Caleb, thank you for sort of coming and sort of joining, sitting up with us weirdos.
Yeah, thank you.
We really appreciate it. Listeners, thank you very much. I hope to see you again for our Christmas special episode, which I really have no idea when I'm going to be able to record that, but there we go. Okay, all right, until next time. Bye!
Bye, thanks for having me.
God in Film is hosted and created by Giles Gough. That's me. Mixing and editing by Giles. Our logo was designed by
Julie Walsh.
And our theme tune was composed by
Rick Lee.
Fact-checking and waffle editing by literally no one. I've gone drunk with the lack of oversight. Please rate and review, unless it's a 1-star, in which case just remember, I'm Giles. I'm a geek. I'm from the city of Bangor in the land of Wales. I'm 40.5 years old, and I'm the man who's going to entertain you and the minds of all 6 other people listening to this podcast. You got a problem with that? In that case, hallo und Sie!